Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at kind of rocky intertidal area in the western tropical Pacific. This is the coast of Costa Rica, Guanacaste province. So basically this area sees a lot of high energy wave action and that type of thing during high tides, and then low tides it's kind of high and dry, so kind of makes for quite an extreme environment. That's why I thought it was a bit interesting to have a look at here. So we're just gonna kind of have a look around and see what can kind of survive these conditions. One of the things, when the water goes out and leaves small tide pools such as this, where we see a lot of little fish, crustaceans, that type of thing left behind, the issue is that often this water becomes quite warm. There's dark rock, bright sun, and the oxygen levels get quite low. So these fish can actually survive that, which is pretty impressive, because marine fish generally require pretty high oxygen levels. They're used to this kind of wave action, having fully 100% oxygenated water, so fully saturated. So anyway, we're going to take a look around and see what can grow in these conditions. Tide pools around the world can be kind of similar. The difference being, the type of species that live in the area and take advantage of the tide pool, but all tide pools kind of are extreme. In the north, tide pools might be subject to kind of extreme cold compared to the water, even if it's not, it might only be 0 degrees outside Celsius or something like that. But when the water's 10 or 12, that's quite a shock temperature wise. So anyway, let's have a look around and see what kind of things live here. Okay, we're higher up on the rocks now, and this is more, I would say this is more of a splash zone, but we still have things. These are some sort of species of barnacle, very small, very robust, very flat to the surface. They can take those big hits from the big waves that constantly hit these rocks during higher tides. Just kind of interesting just how amazing the survival of the creatures that can live in a place like this. They are dry for much of the day. It's hot, the rock is dark, and yet here they are. Little further down, it's a little wetter, and the density increases of these small barnacles. But there's not a lot living here on this part of the rock, a little higher up in the splash zone, but still something. It's really incredible how much these can take. It's amazing. All right, we're down a little lower where there's a little more permanent water, and we can certainly see the line of barnacles, how heavy it becomes, where the more water, the more time underwater, the more barnacles. And we have a bit of an interesting formation here, a little kind of tunnel through the rocks, an arch where the water comes through, and we're seeing a lot of crabs, that type of thing. It's kind of pretty standard what you expect to see in these areas, small crabs. And larger fish are in this area, which stands to reason. It doesn't seem to lose its access to the open water. So, but what it does do is it creates another little area here with shallow pools where we're able to kind of see a little bit more. So we're going to have a look over there. All right, we're in that lower area where we just had a look at before, and quite incredibly, there's some small fish that actually skip across the water. I don't know if you could see that. It's pretty fast. They skip across the water on their side, just like that. Amazing. I've never seen that before, so I don't exactly know what type of fish that is. It's just an escape mechanism, I'm assuming, but kind of an odd one, but maybe one that's well adapted to the tide pools where they sometimes need to go from pool to pool to escape predators. I don't know. That's kind of my guess. I believe that they might actually be the same fish that we were seeing earlier. Just a really interesting adaptation to their environment, if that's what it is. An escape mechanism that allows them to skip across rocks or whatever to avoid predators. So, and also pretty much any crevice that you look into is going to have crabs. These types you can see now. Small crabs everywhere. Every coast around the world seems to have that. We're just going to slowly make our way along here carefully to see if we can see a little more of these fish that are jumping out of the way here. Just an amazing area. Anytime you find an area, a natural area that has a lot of life like this, or any area, just the closer you look, the more interesting things you find. And that's, I don't know, that's kind of what makes me so interested in the natural world. Is just, no matter what it is, no matter where you are, the closer you look, the more you find. And the amount of life everywhere on the planet, it seems like, is just incredible the closer you look. So here we're seeing a little bit more life, probably a more permanent pool, less likely to be out of water. There's some algae and things like that. And one of the things about marine algae is often it's quite calcareous, so it can stand up to wave action a little better than a soft tissued algae. So really interesting. Okay, we'll keep moving on. All right, so we're up higher up on kind of a rock platform here. I'll just take a look back here. We're probably, I don't know, maybe 8 feet, 2.5 meters, whatever that is, above the ocean surface at this point. So this would barely be underwater, maybe just with kind of wave action. And we have a pool that's in the full kind of sun. And here we have those similar fish here, and lots of them. But what's kind of interesting about this pool is that we have a nudibranch here, moving along, grazing in this kind of warm, very warm water. Probably throughout the tide cycle lowers in oxygen slowly. And also you can see around we have some sort of LPS, or stony, large polyp stony coral. I'm not sure what it is, something really tough. Don't know the exact species, but you know, the Western Pacific certainly has a lower species diversity coral-wise than the Eastern Pacific, where you have, you know, the big reefs and that type of thing. The western edges of the western edges of continents. This would actually be the Eastern Pacific, not Western. Sorry. But the western edges of continents have a lot less marine biodiversity for tropical type species anyway, for corals anyway. So kind of interesting that we're actually seeing a little bit here in a place where I personally wouldn't have expected it. So this pool doesn't dry out very long, if it does, and it gets replenished with fresh water enough to support the fish here, the coral, and you know, this nudibranch here, right there, that we're seeing. And there's actually more than one species of fish in here. There's at least 3 that I'm seeing. All similar habits. They seem to be on the substrate resting. Well, some might be a little more free swimming. But they look kind of, to me, they look like gobies. But like I say, I really don't know the species. So yeah, just a small little tiny pool, all this life. Coral, nudibranchs, barnacles, fish, snails. I see snail shells, I see crabs. And even as we look in these really small pools, right here, this is no more than a few inches wide. This little crack in the rock. And if it shows itself, I just saw a fish in here. Right there. Oops, yeah, right there. Amazing. This tiny little crack. They're surviving for hours on end, baking in the sun. It's an amazing place. Well, a few feet away from our last location, we have some algae and the things that graze on algae, like these urchins, more nudibranchs, a few larger fish. This pool's a little bit deeper, might be, a couple feet deep. On the same level though as the other spot. But yeah, here we have quite a few urchins. Little group feeding on the algae. Obviously, that grows well in the sun here. And a few of the, I think there's the same species of fish, but maybe a few of the larger ones here. So, well, throughout the world, along the oceans, it seems, wherever the splash zone is here, there's a lot of little crabs. This place is no different. I'm not sure how well this is picking this up, but these rocks are absolutely crawling with crabs, going about their business, grazing on algae and food particles and whatever else is stuck to the rocks. But yeah, no matter where you go, it seems that crabs are there. It's kind of one of the ultimate marine survivors. Alright, we're just a little bit further up the beach here. And I just wanted to point out the huge amount of shells, coral encrusted rocks, pieces of coral, and that type of thing. These kind of elongated snail shells are everywhere on the beach here. And there's limpet shells, large barnacle shells, clams, mussels, all sorts of stuff here. Different types of snails. Here's remnants of a snail shell there, larger one. But just that the Costa Rican government is kind of starting a push to make sure that tourists are educated that these shells need to stay on the beach. And it makes sense, there's a whole lot of them, but what I don't know is exactly how they affect the beach. Is it that they break down into smaller particles with wave action to help replenish the beaches, create the sand, that type of thing? Or is it the larger pieces help keep the sand in place, that type of thing? So if anybody does know, put a comment in and kind of to start the discussion of exactly the ecosystem benefits, or kind of what all this material does. Just be interesting to know kind of how that works, how that system works. Here's a bit of a unique site to this area. It's a very large tropical hardwood of some type tree that is washed up onto shore here, washed out of some river, I'm assuming, and has landed here. But it'll take, if it stays in this area, I imagine it'll take quite some time to break down. But as it does, there'll be all the little creatures that attack wood, marine worms, and all these types of things, digging into this tree for quite some time. But it's at least 2 meters or so diameter, 6 feet or 7 feet at the base, with a kind of a flared trunk here. But I'm guessing, 40 meters tall, 50 meters tall, something like that, in that 150, 60 feet tall range when it was alive. But pretty neat to see something so big just sitting up on the rocks here in the tidal zone. And this does get flooded in high tide, so there's lots of water around it. And I'm assuming it's a pretty heavy tree. And as we go back this way, there's lots of branches to kind of dig into the sand to keep it here. So anyway, something a little different in the area. Giant trees do come ashore occasionally, just like all over the world. And I guess that's just a part of the ecosystem here. Just wanted to mention, this happens to be in Costa Rica where I'm filming. This is in the Guanacaste province. And I just wanted to show, and to, I don't know, what an amazing kind of place this is. It's an area where they respect their natural wealth, I guess, where they may not have as much wealth in other areas, but just such a beautiful place with great people. And as you can see, we have a beach with very few people on it, mid-morning. It's just an incredible area, and the respect they have for the natural world is something I kind of hope spreads from a place like this, and just to conserve a little bit more, and like recognize the value that areas like this have. So anyway, just wanted to mention that.